Live and uninterrupted here from downtown Gold Coast. Gentlemen, how are we this wonderful Wednesday evening even?
Mate, I am absolutely fantastic. I'm super excited for the questions coming through. I'm super excited to share what's been going on in HQ bloody Axon and to let everyone know, what we've been nugging away at over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it never stops, mate, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It's a very dynamic environment. I mean, Ryan, you got out of the Air Force, let's call it 7 or 8 months ago. Angie Parados is in the house. Trish Chillard saying hi. Trish, I saw a photo of you today saying thank you so much for the birthday card that came in. It is our absolute pleasure. I'm so happy that you I don't know, how much mail do we get besides a letter with a little window on it, which is normally some prick that we have to pay money to or something similar. How often do we actually get something in the mail these days that actually brings joy to our face? So, Trish, thank you for just expressing your gratitude for the effort that we go to. All of us signed by hand, every single one of us. Hey, team, every single one of us by hand. Make sure it's all done. So it's amazing that it's gone that way. So yeah, I mean, Ryan, you've been here for 6 or 7 months. Your job as an intel officer in the RAF was no doubt very, very dynamic. And mate, I was never one of those, of course. But let's just go down that little path very quickly. How's the dynamic nature of everything that's never the same here at Axon?
Every week is different, and I love it. We're getting, as I said, I think last time I was on this call, I'm just blown away by the amount of people that we're reaching within the defence community, but the depth and breadth of people and the circumstances and everything that's going on, because humans are complicated, and I just love the problem-solving nature of it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it starts right from the connection call all the way through until, one of the points I wanted to bring up here. I normally do these unscripted, but there's been so many good things happening over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, I've got to remember this, I've got to remember that, because Luke, when you were a client, it was like Luke from the Gold Coast, and you just see me go off on these fucking random tangents. And like, fuck, there were 4 or 5 things I actually wanted to pass on to people that I just bloody got sidetracked with. There's a heap of clients. Franny and Caitlin, and led very well by Ange in the build support team, and now supported by a new build support team member, Kat. There's been so many clients that have finished their build over the last couple of weeks. Like, it's been heaps come through. And I know the girls are really plowing through now a bunch of end of build hot wash calls. Ryan, you and I were on a call last night with a wonderful couple, Sam Squared, up in Townful. Yeah. And when I used the term hot wash, Luke, and spoke about fix, sustain, and improve, he's like, oh, it never stops. I feel like I'm doing a JMAP at work. I'm like, you are.
Yeah, I think he said he blinked and accidentally fell into a JMAP again somehow at night time.
But here's the thing, right, RT, right? Even though most military officers, they have the skill sets to be able to do that stuff, and I'm guilty of this as well, people don't do it on their own life, but on their own lives, and plan out, what is it? What are those major muscle movements? Much to the disgust of most of our wives, we act like we don't know what's going on for the next sort of 2 or 3 years, even though we probably do have some idea. Yeah. But people don't put that level of depth and thought and analysis into their own life and what's happening. And the so what, more importantly for us, is, where are the windows of opportunity, whether that be property or, whatever else the path takes you down. It's so important to have an understanding of what is to come.
Growing a family, getting posted, fucking having one of your kids turn 18, so they're not on the orbat anymore from a finance perspective. Like, this, the variables that go on, just the bunch of people. I'll say hello to you all in a minute. I feel like we've just jumped straight into this, which is cool. Have a think about it right now. There's so many different variables that are going on in everyone's life. And how can you now synchronize that to make sure that you're not just living your life and you get to the end of your life and go, oh, that was fucking pretty cool. You want to still be able to be, doing concurrent things like investing in your future and investing in the here and now to make sure that you can, have the best life you possibly can. So, no, it's very, very interesting times. It's, as the 3 people that are almost like the front runners of Axon, even though I think one of the things I want to highlight, there was an amazing video that our team did of Franny and Caitlin sitting there shooting the shit about life as a military spouse. If you haven't seen it yet, team, I think they were in there talking for the better part of 15 or 20 minutes. Forgive me if I'm not spot on there. And I know now our AV team is now cutting it up into a series of, probably 6 or 7 little awesome videos. But when they come out and you see those 2 superstars sitting in front of the camera, stop scrolling and listen to what they've got to say. Not only is it funny, it's very insightful, and half of it's about that bloody, that peanut, Luke, on the screen there about the way you've been conducting yourself. So, yeah. Welcome to tonight's session. Who we got in the house? Just quickly, Brooke Turvey's in the house. Tammy's upstairs. Kat Gresham's there. Trish and Rog Tillard, I see her in the house, which is awesome. Shania's saying hi. Mickey Galliner, and then Tam's there as well. Mick, that Sam Squared that I spoke about before, no further names or pack drills, is some colleagues of yours made up in Townsville. So they did mention that you said for them to come along and say hi. So I guess I'm just closing the loop on to you, mate, in a public sense. I know I'm speaking to you and Hannah tomorrow night. Whereby, thanks so much for putting them in touch with us. It was an awesome session. Ryan and I spoke to them just face to face, shooting the shit, understanding like who knew what and like what the broad strategic direction was going to be. At the 1 hour and 8 minute mark, I shared my screen and went, let me now take you through the business model. But again, we're talking about the dynamic nature, and like there's never, ever one call which is anywhere near the fucking same, because obviously there's a completely different human with a different set of circumstances on the other end. It's certainly, Ryan, kept us on our toes as you and I debriefed it this morning.
Yeah.
And they've already come back and said, look, they really enjoyed it, and now they'll have a chat to Deb, the mortgage broker, and Mick and Hannah. You guys know the rest from there. So, yeah, really, really awesome that we had a chance to say good day. Caitlin's already banging her own drum, something different, because we are awesome. Normally when someone bangs their own drum, the first thing you want to do is like, no, you fucking come back down here by the rest of us. But I'll say in a public sense, you are fucking awesome, Caitlin, in everything you do. Sometimes it's that awesome is in capitals too, by the way. Luke, and I know we've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but mate, where do you want to start tonight? I know there was an interesting conversation that you had with a client tonight. You want to maybe just kick off with that one so the people that are here get to listen to a really impactful part of the way we think when we have a sort of outside the box inquiry come in.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Like Brian was saying before, on his intro, no week is the same. And in fact, no day is the same for us. Like every single time that Zoom screen lights up, it's kind of like, righto, what challenges have we got, but, that we're going to work through and solve and unpick. And like you just said, spending an hour shooting the shit and talking and getting an understanding of who people are. Because ultimately, that's the most important thing, right? G'day, Noah. Great to see you here, buddy.
New phone, who dis?
Getting an understanding of what makes people tick is one important piece or component to understanding what makes them write their goals in the way that they do. And so that is so important for us to understand that, because it's not just throw us a couple of bucks, we go away and get your property come back perfect and it's a stale transaction. Like we absolutely, as everybody in this chat, or most people in this chat will know, that's not how we function. Like it's all about education, support, and all of those other components that go through the excellent journey. Yeah. So what the conversation that RT is drawing my attention to, I was sitting down with a lovely couple, an older gent who I've got quite a network of friends with. So we had a lot in common, and he went through.
Curious to ask, when you say older, like I'm the oldest one on this call. There are older people on the screen there. I think Roger and Trish, if I could be so cheeky. When you say older,
no, I didn't say old RT. I said an older gent. So by that,
older. How far? How? What? Just to give us some context about what, because the element of time is what you're about to speak about, Luke. So how does that fit in?
So around 50. So the gent's around 50, and the young lady was about 45. And so in the connection call went for quite a bit longer than connection calls, tend to do, basically getting a basic understanding of what they're, what we're required to work through and that sort of stuff, and what trajectory we're going on. So we talked about the importance of, having two windows of opportunity in your life, whereby in the normal circumstance, and I know nobody's normal, but in the normal circumstance, we have two windows of opportunity for us to be able to invest in. It's that first window before the billy lids come along. So before we've got kids, we're usually single or double income, no kids, and we've got all that disposable income that the banks look at and go, yep, righto, this is a safe option for us to be able to invest in. If we don't pull the trigger on that in that period, and we choose to create a family, and we choose to, really take care of that family throughout those years and provide them with those experiences that they're going to grow up with and have a full heart as a result of, that is absolutely okay. Like no one on this screen can tell anybody otherwise. And in fact, Ryan and I both went down that path as well. But it becomes very, very difficult through that middle period to do both at the same time, which is to grow a family and a portfolio. Like it's a unique situation where a couple have the capacity to do that. So sitting down with this gent, I was talking through what options are available to them and where they'd like to take it, noting that they are moving towards the end of their working life, and they're right in that prime position to be able to take action on that second phase of being able to create wealth. Now, of course, when we talk through that, it becomes so much more of an imperative to take action and to take the right action moreover when in that phase period, because we don't have time to catch it up. If we execute that in the first phase where we're building wealth, we've got all of those working years to be able to recover anything, that we, like I did, went down the wrong path, wrong property, wrong price point, whatever your investment strategy looks like, you've got time on your side, which is one of the most powerful things we have when we're talking about investing. When you're at the back end of your work life cycle, it's so important that we get it right, and it's so important that we take action. So for me, when I was talking to that Jen, I was talking about making sure that we have a plan in place that we are working towards and taking action towards, because we've only got a short window to be able to make that up. It's not about being reckless. It's not about, taking undue risks. It's about making sure that everything we do is in a deliberate manner to get the outcome that is desired, so that we can continue to leapfrog that portfolio in those final years of your work life.
Love this so far, mate. What actually came through? So that's set the scene about the conversation around time, and I hope that's resonating with all of you, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s. This is actually, it's a very, very relevant points that Luke's now gone through.
The follow-up conversation that we had was directed towards uncertainty of what's going on in the Australian economy right now in terms of, inflation, in terms of economic growth, or whether it's looking like it's going to retract down the track, and also more importantly, the RBA interest rates. So for us, of course, that creates unknowns, right? And how do we get ourselves in a position where we can have a capacity to understand the unknowns is through planning. We have to be able to analyze what is going on and those potential courses of action, those branch plans for those military officers out there, those branch plans and the outcomes of those branch plans, so we can take action against those if they come up, right? If you don't identify a risk, you can't mitigate it. And the way in which you mitigate risks is first and foremost identifying, but have a plan in place that you are following to be able to, take that action that's required.
So just so I'm clear, there's a small little bit of the story, Luke, that you inadvertently missed out, is that after the connection call, they've reached out and said, hey, we don't want to do the coaching session. We want to wait 6 months.
Right, yes.
And I was like, does it overhearing you guys? And he's like, oh, I'm not concerned about all the things you just spoke about. And I'm like, that's even more imperative to do a coaching session. It's fucking $300, $50, $350, $50 goes to a veteran charity, your choice. The fact that you're uncertain about a few things in the future, it means you must do a session. You must map it out. There's no good getting to the end of the 6 month mark and go, all right, we should do the planning now. And what course of action are you going to undertake? So it's interesting, and they will choose their own path. Yes. So we're now putting it out in a public forum, and we're being very discreet here. No one knows who we're talking about, but we all do. And I'm sure that the really good outcome is going to occur for these people regardless, but they're going to lose 6 months of having the ability just to shoot the shit and talk about different options, put the plan on the shelf, monitor what those course of actions are going to be. So when we get to this, somehow he's put a 6 month bloody, guillotine on it, go, should be all good in 6 months time. Well, fuck me. Go. I want to buy you a crystal ball, champ, please. So, it's, it was just, I know everyone on the chat here now has loved the opportunity of going through the planning processes and looking at the different options. And you can either have the opportunity of executing sooner or you execute later. That is not an issue. The fact we've got a plan that we're all working towards matters so much more.
Yeah.
One of the other things sorry, Ryan.
No, I was just saying, sorry, you got it.
Well, I was going to say, one of the other things that I love about these types of dynamic situations where we're challenged and stimulated by, client situations and stuff is that, as you can probably all tell right now, the three of us sit down and discuss these circumstances as they come through the door as well. Because, we've got this saying in the business where we never stop learning. And so out of the back end of every single call that we come off, we'll do a reflection session, informal or formal, whatever that looks like. And we'll share those key components of learning that the three of us had as we went through each one of those calls. And that should be pretty evident. And, in fact, Ryan chased that up with an article that he sent through to Robbie and I just before.
Yeah. Ryan, do you want to, so have you got any comments on what we just spoke about there? And then perhaps, so I looked at it for like 30 seconds before we started the session, but yeah, like what were some of the key things that you were able to extract out of that article as well?
Yeah, I think it was because we were talking about, obviously, which was summarized nicely in the military sense of time is going to go by. You have unknowns and uncertainties, so you plan accordingly and you create your COAs and putting the intel hat back on. You can have your indicators and warnings with your decision points and all that sort of military stuff. But if you just kind of pull back into any area of your life and you're looking to be on a path towards a better future, you should be doing certain things in that 6 months. Let's just pick that time frame because it's relevant. That would pay dividends for you down the road. So that can be like improving your knowledge through a coaching session, picking up new skills in whatever it might be, developing new relationships with people that can help you in life in many other things. So whether it is the putting the plan in place for your property acquisition or just doing something within those 6 months to better yourself, I think it's a missed opportunity. These people will take their own path and that's cool. But it's certainly, it's certainly, I think it's a no-brainer for me that you can sit down and just do a plan at the very least to fill your cup of competence so that in 6 months' time, when you've got that magic date, you can reflect and go, I've actually moved forward in terms of, property wealth creation. So,
I just thought of something. Simo and I did an awesome coaching session with an awesome young girl that we met 3.5 years ago. She was a young raft digger, put herself through Duntroon as an army officer. Now, sort of come out the other end, and she's had a med discharge. So, but we're up to version 8 of her plan. It's been going for 3.5 years, and she has not put an EOI in yet.
Wow.
So she's had 10 hours of coaching for the original $350 or whatever it was. And it's just been so beneficial for her because she's had so many indicators and warnings and changing circumstances, Ryan. I love that. I haven't heard that for a while. Obviously, I know how to implement it. But we got to a point last night where I think we're at the final hurdle. Obviously, a bit of DVA stuff's going to come through soon, and bang, she's all ready to drop an EOI based on the coaching sessions we had 6 months ago because we were, sort of coming to that culmination. So it is a very, very unique part of Axon in the industry here. When you go to any other firm, if you're not ready to go straight away, they'll turn your back on you and come back in 6 months when you're ready. I'm like, no. If you're not ready to go now, let's understand that and put a plan in place so you have fucking crystal clear clarity on what the next 6 months and beyond looks like. Yeah. So, very interesting. Good. That's that
infinite game. That's that infinite game mindset, RT, where we talk about, no specific end state, but we're working towards being infinitely better and infinitely greater across it, and putting measures and steps in place, plans in place, and executing those against our own infinite game that we work towards. Hey, Trish, I did see your comment there before, mate. I'll keep that on the down low, but rest assured I've got your back, buddy.
Yeah, good. Well done, Luke. Hey, you just made me think of something else. When we're talking about the infinite game, it's a business philosophy. So, here we are now, Wednesday, the 5th of July. For most people, they're like, okay, it's winter now. No worries. We've got another couple of months of winter. For property investors, it should be a really key part of your portfolio because effectively you're a business owner. I'm a business owner and a property investor. Everyone else that doesn't run their own business, you're a property investor, but there's so many people, Luke and Ryan, that we've spoken to and or seen. Think how many veterans these days get out and they're like, I'm fucking sick of being told what to do. I want to become my own boss. Guess what? You need to then put your business hat on. And there's a really important date that comes for you as a business owner, which is the end of the financial year. If you're selling items, you need to do a stock take and, take stock of all of that. So you can understand, start to understand what your overs and unders are going to be. And then, of course, you get a chance to sort of, plan what the forward element of that's going to happen as well. I really feel like the 30th of June and the 30th of June is a New Year's Eve period for me as a business owner. Six and a bit years now I've been doing this, which is really cool. And And then, you know, obviously you get the personal New Year's Eve stuff where you make bullshit resolutions to yourself that fucking halfway through January you've forgotten about anyway. But I guess from a business sense, I really want you guys to take stock is that when you own a property and you sit with your accountant, most of you are using Jace Cosgrove, I assume. If not, you should be. And then you go through what the numbers look like from a profit and loss perspective. So you have the rental income, and then you have all the deductions that come out from a cash perspective and all the depreciation from a non-cash perspective. You can sort of run the numbers there to understand what the pure P&L or profit and loss of the business, that little operation of each property is, and your portfolio as a whole. But then you also get the added bonus, which I don't get as a business owner, of knowing a tangible amount of capital growth that's occurred. Sure, this business has grown a lot, as all of you have observed over the years. But unless I get to a point whereby I want to sell the business, which is not on my radar, if ever, then I won't be able to get a proper valuation done of the business based on a bunch of other metrics that I won't bore you with. So I guess, yeah, it is a really important time. If you don't own your own business and you're still a serving member, but you've got a property, you are in fact a business owner because you run a profit and loss little, endeavor, which is your, property portfolio. So I just saw from an Axon's mindset perspective, I might just sort of put that on people's radar. It's easy to just walk past this time of life and go, all it means I'm going to get a tax return back. But no, actually it means much more than that. You should, think of it that way.
And as we're, I'm sorry, I'd say as we are business owners in the sense that we own a property or a property portfolio, we need to make sure that we're utilizing that tax return to the most optimum way possible. Like it's not just for a new watch. It's not to go out and get on the piss. Like the whole purpose of that is to, it's a part of your holding strategy. The tax return and the rent return are a part of your holding strategy. So when you do get that tax return in your pocket, if you don't have a PAYG variation in place, when you get that tax return, it goes straight into your offset, and we use that to hold that property in the market for us, as we all know. Everyone that's done the coaching will understand that, in depth.
Yeah, and certainly if you've got some alternate strategies there around using some surplus cash to do other investments, speak to your financial planner to get that specific advice. Certainly putting your money in an offset account is one option that you have. For me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Like if you've got a 6.5% loan, you're getting a 6.5% return on the amount of interest you're not paying every day.
Yep.
So, but there's other. So for people that are super conservative, that might be the way to go. For others that want to be able to put some money into some stocks and shares and crypto and fucking whatever else, go your hardest. I'm not your guy to talk to about that. But I guess the overall thing is that, the good news is that this time last year, before interest rates really started going up, people were getting $3.5-4 grand back in their tax because you didn't pay very much interest throughout the year. Now, as you're paying more interest, throughout the year, people are getting 9, 10, 11 grand back in their tax. So it's a fair whack of money that can come in at one time. Luke, your words are very sage. Use it wisely, team. Yeah. It's something that we absolutely want to make sure we're talking about. Brian, what about you, mate? You've had I've seen you really grow over the last couple of weeks, especially.
Not vertically.
No, you're still the shortest out of us coaches, which is totally fine.
Oh, I think I've got Luke on a good hair day.
I love it. Lost my bloody train of thought there, but it's almost like when you bring. When am I going to put this in? I'll use a human thing. Like when a baby's growing, right, and it's like it seems like it's a baby for quite a long time, and then all of a sudden you blink your eye and you're like, shit, look at my little boy or little girl over there. Maybe when they start walking or something, and then their growth spurt just seems to go and go and go and go. For me, mate, you haven't been my baby, but certainly the first few months of you being an Axon, it's pretty that dynamic environment that we speak about when you're trying to get your head around all the different calls that you've been on, everyone's different circumstances, so you can contribute to the calls in a meaningful way and really understand the business model, even though you're a client and an expert town planner. It's a fair bit of chaos in the first few months. But now I just sort of feel like you've got to a place where you're in the dynamic nature, but you're able to contribute so much more because you've found your groove. You've coached a bunch of clients. You have helped a couple of people be accepted into the long-term coaching program, our success package. How are you sort of feeling about things, mate? Your own growth there and and to maybe even some of the trends that you're starting to see with people as well?
Well, I mean, firstly, I'd be a very hairy baby if I was your baby. Yeah, look, there's a bit of a saying when I came into the Axon IETs that immersion is going to be your best friend, and it certainly was. So it's been a steep learning curve for me. Even though I was a client, you only see a part of Axon as a client. You don't see all of it naturally. So the learning curve has been steep, but as I say every week, I'm loving it. I thoroughly love this job. I'm loving getting to understand people. It's really just the highlight of each session for me. Whether it is just that quick 5-minute chat on the phone, or the connection call, or then taking the personal people the whole way through to, inviting them into the success package and the long-term coaching program is just, I want to do more, to be honest. I want to contribute more. And that's I guess that's the point of that immersion stuff, is I needed to understand everything before I could fully contribute. And I'm still getting there. But I'm starting to, I guess, find the pattern and the groove, and starting to feel like I'm actually a coach, which is good.
Good on
you. Build some confidence a bit.
I love it. It was there's a famous saying in our office. All the girls will know exactly what I'm talking about here. When Caitlin sort of got her training wheels off in the build support team, she's like, I want more clients. Give me more clients. She ain't saying that anymore. Let me tell you that right now.
All right, mate. Ryan, if I can say publicly, mate, like, I would absolutely, genuinely love to have you as my coach. Like, your understanding of...
I wouldn't invite you, mate.
You wouldn't get through, Luke.
Yeah, wouldn't meet the requirements at the door, mate, at the connection call. No, your detailed understanding of the way in which, the master plan communities are structured, the uniqueness you bring to the business in terms of, your past in town planning, and also your capacity to plan, and the in space that you worked in makes you, provides you with a unique insight into what it is to be a coach, and understanding people and understanding what they want to achieve. So, mate, I'd have you as my coach, buddy.
Very good. Hey, fellas, let's switch gears for a second, because something else really important happens during the financial year period, and we're talking about ADF housing entitlements, and that is the assessment of the Australian house prices,
average house price,
which then feeds straight into the DHOAS figures. So yeah, I know certainly we've seen some movement on that front. Ladies and gents, I don't know whether you know that. Hello, Benny Hinton's in the place.
He's in the house.
Go back and watch the first half an hour, Ben, because it's been an absolute cracker so far. Even Dave Horrell's comment, financial year is way more exciting than regular New Year's. Amana from the Gold Coast. Thanks for dialing in, Amana. The coaching is priceless. We should know. I think we're at version 27 of the plan, mate. Yes. I do think that both of you, when you were clients, hold the record for that. We're talking about a dynamic set of changing circumstances that I was so thankful to be a part of. I saw you guys living it, and it was just fucking being pulled from pillar to post. So I hope some of those sessions that I provided both of you just added a little bit of calmness, a sense of reason, and maybe a little bit of clarity as well. So, Amano, I love doing it. I'd go back and do it all again 10 times over for you. I've just got it on my other screen here. So the average house price, which the DHOAS tiers and subsidies are calculated on, last year it was $1,005,000. Now it's actually come down to $912,000. So, it's certainly, I think, and then the year before that, I think it was like 780 or something, and then it ballooned up to $1 million. So certainly it's the fact that it's moderated a little bit there is probably a good thing. So, I guess interesting. So what that means, Kieran, just let me see if I can do this, see if I can share my screen. Ooh, this one here. I'll hit share, mate, and see if that comes up. Bingo. Fucking hey, how's a bit of bloody technology every now and then? So you can see the subsidy tiers here, team. So as you guys know, from the start of the year, you don't have to serve a minimum of 4 years. You can just do a minimum of 2 years and you're on tier 1. Reserve is still 4 years. The maximum subsidized loan is $364 and you get nearly $500 a month. So that's fucking awesome. Going back 2 years ago when interest rates were so low, if you were on tier 3, you were getting $500 a month. That's really, really benefit. You get access to it sooner, and you're getting the same amount as what people were getting in tier 3 only a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Ford subsidy number 2 to tier 2, 4 years minimum service, 8 years as a reservist. Now you can get nearly $550 as the loan, and you get nearly $750 as a subsidy per month, which is really, really awesome. Tier 3, which is, you guys have been following us for a while now. We think this is where you get maximum benefit from it. But at the end of the day, getting in sooner rather than later is also, if you need that extra $490 a month to help you service the right amount of loan so you can actually benefit from the market, hello, that's a fucking no-brainer. Just make it happen, right? So tier 3, 8 years, 12 years for minimum reserve service, nearly $730,000 loan, give or take, and a $985. So, it's probably come down about $20 a month. It was about $1,005, about $1,000 or so for tier 3 over the last few months. So it's come down a little bit. So yeah, it is important that's now underway for everybody. I just hit stop sharing and yep, I'm back. But and it never actually dawned on me. For those that know Tam and I, we've been building our own dream home down here on the Gold Coast. We bought the block 3 years ago. Took a year for the planning and all the bloody council approvals to come through. And we've still got another couple of months to go, and we'll finally be in our own home. Finally. So those of you that are living in your own home right now, I don't know that feeling yet, and I yearn for it a lot as a 50-year-old, I promise. And Tam, of course, as you guys know, so it was her and I as Luke was sorting out his fucking comms issues a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about Tam going down to the DVA forum, and we're talking about a bunch of stuff with DHOAS, because as you know, DHOAS is administered through DVA. And she came back and asked me a really pertinent question, which sort of slapped me in the face. She's like, "Are we going to get DHOAS on our loan?" And I went, "Fuck." I actually said that. That's how I talk to my wife, just in case you wondered. I've been out for 10 years. But doesn't have a 5-year bloody limit anymore. I did 24 years. I'm going to be on tier 3. Fuck. Our loan's a bit more than 729, which is my problem, not yours. But yeah, guess what? This is going to be the first ever ADF housing entitlement I've ever had come my way. I used to wear it as like a badge of honor, but a pit in my stomach. I'm like, let me help you with this, because I got out after serving my time and I didn't get to use any of my entitlements because no one like me had a conversation like we're having right now. I use that exact bloody terminology and hand movements. But I'm happy to report, ladies and gents, RT's going to get some DHOAS. They're like, "Oh, please go ahead and inquire with your fucking subsidy certificate." Blah, 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 blah.
Tomorrow, coach the coach, right?
Yeah. Mate, you guys have heard me say it plenty of times before. I'm the CEO and founder of this business, but she's the CEO and founder of our bloody relationship. So everyone has a higher master, and I'm very well aware of where I sit in the pecking order. There's no bloody doubt about that. What else, boys? What else do you guys want to talk about? Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it, buddy. Actually, one of the other trends that I'm seeing coming through, and I've got no dramas with this as well, Luke, I think you have got a video coming up about this soon, is that you are doing this right now, if you have a portfolio, I'll go back. If you have a property in your portfolio that has served its purpose and going forward, you need to cut that away, don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of people that I've seen in my lane. I'll come to you in a second, Luke, if you don't mind sharing your story, whereby they've lived in their own home for the last couple of years. It's served its purpose. They've squeezed all the dollars from the government and the ADF. They're like, all right, now what I'm doing in my life is sort of changing a little bit. What do you reckon I should do? I'm like, well, that's not in a very good spot from a long-term capital growth perspective. Cut it away. Obviously, then they talk to the accountant, financial planner, and/or mortgage broker to see if it's all feasible, and then get to a point of like, all right, cool. I'm going to sell my own home. Got 150 grand. I'm going to walk away with. Bang, tip that into a brand new investment property. Go to another posting location. Get your RA, get your married quarter, whatever it's going to be, and have an investment property whereby the tenant and the taxman start paying it off. So I guess it's just a bit of a trend whereby I think I've got 3 or 4 clients right now that I'm coaching whereby they're discarding their own home that they're currently living in to then suit what their future options are going to be. So yeah, even though I am I'm a buy and hold sort of guy, but only to a point whereby those properties in your portfolio continue to serve you well. If anything in your life is not serving you well, I'm not referring to my wife, by the way. If anything in your life is not serving you well anymore, cut it away. Luke, tell me about your story. Or actually, it's only the 3 of us, so you can be really frank.
No problem, mate. I think actually we had a little discussion a little while back, and you said, "Are you a 10 out of 10 kind of guy, Luke?" And I said, "Well, I like to think so, mate." You said, "Do you do 10 out of 10 investments?" I said, "Oh, I like to think so, mate." what do you rate that fucking thing? And I said, oh, probably about a 2 out of 10, mate. You go, why the fuck is it in your portfolio?
Something like that, yes. I think we might have been on the piss when I said that to you, but you seem to remember things we speak about on the piss, and I'm not very good at that. So that's good. Yeah.
Most of the audience will know, and to those that don't yet, I was 27. I decided that you can't go wrong with bricks and mortar. I used every entitlement that I could get my hands on: DHOAS, HPAS, first homeowner, stamp duty exemption, all of those that go into assisting you in acquiring your first property. I thought I was doing the right thing. I was, living in it for the right period of time, etc., moving out. But of course, without planning and without understanding the dynamics of investing in, and doing it the right way, the Axon way, I ended up with a fucking lemon. So that thing has sat in my portfolio for the last 8 years and has almost made nothing. It went down for a little while and it's just sort of started to come back. And because I'm a stubborn prick, and moreover, because it didn't stop me continuing to invest, like the buy and hold strategy I put in place, I was holding on to this property. Now that we're in the position where I've transitioned out of defense, and my circumstances have changed and there are other priorities for us, that was going to prevent us to continue to invest, like burning our borrowing capacity and that sort of stuff. And so, it was an absolute no-brainer that we take that equity that's in that property, take it out of it and put it into a place whereby it's going to grow based on the 7 ingredients to a healthy property market, like you just said before, RP. Like,
well done, mate.
The location selection for me was wrong. The type of property was wrong for what I was trying to achieve. And so therefore, along with those other ingredients, they just weren't there. Like, they just weren't in that location. Of course, I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know at the time. And now being obviously on this side of the camera, I can sort of, be really critical and constructively critical about the decision that I made and why. And that, that also helps me share this story and prevent other people from making that same mistake, which is the most important part. Like, if I take nothing else away from it, at least it's an opportunity for me to be able to warn people about going down that path and making those selections without having a plan in place, without having a strategy in place, without understanding those key drivers to growth.
Yeah, Ryan, you've got a similar story, but it actually turned out differently to you. You didn't buy in the wrong place, in the wrong time, the wrong location. But your circumstances changed. The thing is, if we hadn't have done what we did, Amanda, yourself, and I back in the day, you would not be living in your awesome home here on the Gold Coast now. I think you said last night, not a chance.
No, and I say to people, Air Force do things a little smarter than the Army. So I don't have a lemon in my portfolio. Amara and I reached out to Axon for the first one. We didn't do the I know boats type deal. So, but we did need to restructure. So we got to a point where we were leaving Newcastle and we knew we were coming to the Gold Coast. Entirely different property market up here, entirely different entry level, obviously. So we needed to make that decision of what's our borrowing capacity with that still in our portfolio, and can we buy our own home up here on the Gold Coast. And given the market up here in sort of late last year, early this year, there was that with that in our portfolio, we couldn't afford to purchase up here. So it was jumping into market rent, or saying thank you very much for that property. You served us really, really well, and you've allowed us to get our own home on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, cashed out, took a few $100,000 with you, and now here you are, mate. So I guess the key thing here is, team, is that we are a buy and hold strategy firm, but I just go back to it. As long as that property is continuing to serve its purpose, and this is serve its purpose from a performance in the market, but also, and more importantly, to both of your points, serve its purpose for how your life is evolving.
Yeah.
I sold 3 properties. Tamara sold 1 for us to get into our dream home right now. I'm so glad I did what I did back in the day, because if I didn't have that, we wouldn't have what we've got now. So I sort of use the analogy, focus on the main show in town. And if that means restructuring your portfolio to get what you need in the here and now, not want, need in the here and now, based on your changing life circumstances and priorities, fucking go your hardest. Be glad the fact that I was glad that I had assets that I could liquidate and restructure my portfolio to get to this point.
And I think it's a good point too, in that when you're inside the long-term coaching program, we do the ongoing coaching at regular drum beats every 6 and 12 months, so that we we review your portfolio based on how it's performing, but also your life circumstances, and is it still serving the right purpose. And that's, without that, you'd just be kind of making those decisions on your own.
Yeah, just quickly, Luke, I know you're going to say something. Well, I want to just remind everybody, whether you're listening to this live or watching the replay, if you're inside our program and you want to be able to you've got unlimited access to us, please use us like an all-you-can-eat buffet, even the dessert bar if you so desire. We're here for you to we can refresh and sync and update your plan so you don't feel like you go, oh, what am I going to do now? Just fucking reach out to us. Yep. Luke, you've been with me for a while now. How good does it feel when someone's had a significant life change and they're like, I don't want to do anything until I talk to the boys at Axon. Yeah. I'm talking boys as the coaches, the team at Axon. But in the same breath, there's been people lose deposits and been people walk away from a couple of $100,000 of capital growth because they've had to get rid of a property or not even go through with a property that they put an EOI in down fucking 12 months ago because they went and did something fucking dumb with their finances and didn't come to us first. So please reach out to us. Like we put ourselves here on a Wednesday night to, stand on the front of the Titanic and answer the questions without any warning as they come through. Benny Hinton, I've got an answer for you coming up in however long Luke takes. But yeah, I just really want to implore to everybody that you've got unlimited access to us, and I don't want you to feel like you're alone and you need to try and make these decisions. It's just come to us and shoot the shit. It's not about buying another property. It's about making sure you have ultimate clarity and peace of mind to talk to people that know your circumstances. Go for it, Luke.
I don't want to labour on the point about, selling properties, if it doesn't suit our portfolio. But, when we're looking at restructuring and when we're looking at, going through that process, we need to keep our eye on the prize in terms of, like you say, the main show in town. For the main show in town, for me, what are those goals that people have established when they're laying? And sure, your goals are going to change. Your mindset will change over those years as you educate yourself, you have exposure and those sorts of things. But when we all lay on our deathbed, no one's ever going to think, fuck, I'm glad I own 40,000 bricks. Like I can assure you, none of you are going to think that out there when you go through it. So, what we're working towards is actually, in most cases, is working towards somebody's dream home as close to unencumbered as possible. And so when we're going through and doing the planning iterations and understanding the inputs and the outcomes as a result of that plan, we don't need to necessarily tie ourselves to have an emotional attachment to those properties. It's all about what they can achieve for us to obtain those goals in the long term. That's how I look at owning properties. In fact, RT, how many of my properties have I seen? Do you remember?
Well, I've helped you find 4 of them now, and I don't recall that you've come back to me and said you've seen any of them.
Only the first lemon.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, that was in the year BR.
It was
BA before Axon. But yeah, I think when we were driving around one of the master plan communities in the Western Growth Corridor, I'm like, look, like your house is just over there a couple of streets away. He goes, does it look like that when we're driving past? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. He goes, that'll do. It's a fucking house. Like
it and calculator, bro. That's the way that I take, you can't put a unit of measure when you're talking about your heart and your wallet, of course. That's when you want to live in a place, close to the services, close to the communities that you want to live in. But for me and my mindset when I'm going through this, I'm always thinking with my head and my calculator, what is the best outcome for my portfolio? How do I make that occur? So for me, I don't give a fuck if the front of the house is white or face brick or whatever that looks like. Is it tenanted? Is it taken care of? Do I have all of the risk mitigators in place to ensure that I can keep that over the long term? That's
100%. Benny Hinton, I think this is the longest someone's had to wait for a really good question. I deeply apologise, mate. Someone of your status and loving nature of the, for our relationship. But the simple answer is yes, you can. yes, you are. Yes, you get access to service residence and/or RA if you are no longer occupying your own home, regardless of the reasons of why that's the case. So as long as you don't own it anymore, brother. So the Sam Square that we were talking to last night, Ryan, you would remember that they're selling up in Townsville, and they're like, I've already spoken to DHA. I've already got a house. As soon as I settle on this one, I'm moving in fucking next week.
Yep.
So yeah, you are entitled for a roof over your head as soon as you get that one under your belt, mate. So yeah,
I think it's one area where, as Benny Hinton said, defence won't leave you in the wind. You will have a roof over your head. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're entitled to a roof over your head, so they'll make it happen in some way, shape, or form, even if it's bloody TRA or whatever that sort of looks like, sort of thing. Hey, boys, I've got two social engagements I want to sort of talk about, announcements, I should say. One of them was an awesome podcast that I did last week. I did just do it by myself. I had 2 guests come and see me. It's not produced yet. Actually, side note, Daniel, our amazing videographer who shoots all the stuff behind the camera, him and his lovely wife had their 3rd child. It was on Saturday afternoon or something, like Saturday-ish. Might have been 15 beers deep by then, so it must have been the afternoon. Anyway, so yeah, that's a fantastic step forward in his life. So we did the podcast on Wednesday. He's got a kid which is now in the world on Saturday. So he's obviously had a little bit. He's got a little bit of time off now to do the child rearing thing in the very early stages. So he will be back and he'll produce it soon. But I just want to put it on everyone's radar right now. This is a podcast that is very, very powerful. There were some tears. No, none of them were mine, I should say. But this gentleman that I have come and speak to us about, he's got a centre down here on the Gold Coast called the Atlantis Recovery Centre. He doesn't come from a military background. He's got a Pommy accent, but he's a super awesome bloody guy to speak to. And the way and the methodology and the generosity and the focus of him to be able to support veterans from a national level, we're very lucky it's here on the Gold Coast, is fucking phenomenal. So I know there is tens of thousands of veterans in that sort of sunny coast to Gold Coast region. And when there is a facility that exists right now, and I won't spoil, but the future plans, and you boys don't even know what I'm talking about, the future plans for what's about to occur will fucking blow you away. And, every single one of us that served one day in the military is automatically accepted, DVA side, whereby you can get the right amount of physical and mental and other therapeutic help. So I really want you guys to get that podcast under your belt. I don't know what it's going to be called yet because we haven't come up with the name of it. But that'll be inbound very, very soon. And the other thing I'm really, really proud of, and this is, Luke, there's been a bunch of your peers, your friends, your mates come and join us. I think maybe in what have we done about now? 55 or 56 podcasts, maybe 52, 53, 54 or something like that. 3 or 4 of your really good mates come in, and they were cadets, mates of yours down at Duntroon that knew me back then as Captain Robbie with my fucking commando beret on, and they all pull the piss out of me on the podcast, which I love. And I just love the fact that they've all been able to transition through service life and just be living such a purposeful and impactful life for themselves and their family and the other sort of people that they're helping. I don't think it goes any further than the guy that we've now. So Heston Russell is in that crew. He hasn't done a podcast with us yet. Very good friend of both Luke and I. As you guys know, he's now created the Veteran Games. So it's not that. What's the fuck? I can never remember it, Luke. What's the other games? It's not the Invictus Games, whereby there's a bunch of disabled-bodied people going through and doing stuff. This is all about making sure that able-bodied veterans can come and sort of show their physical prowess in that Veteran Games space. KC, from an executive summary perspective, if you got the Veteran Games link that you can chuck in there. One thing I'm really, really proud of, thank you so much, mate. We have been nominated and now been taken up that nomination to be a founding sponsor of the Veteran Games. So, we'll definitely have, the 3 of us down there on a bit of a rotating basis whereby we'll have a stand, a couple of flyers to hand out, et cetera, et cetera. But, when you talk about someone that's been able to serve their country, do their thing, transition out of the military and all the other stuff that, no doubt you guys have read about Hesto in the papers, which fuck, you and I had a coffee with him. Very, very fit man. So he wasn't a beer across the road, Luke. And I said, mate, how do you fucking handle all the noise when it comes to all the stuff? And he just said, he goes, I just believe in who I am. I believe in what I'm doing. And, everyone else can fuck off. He didn't say that, but that's the vibe. I'm not putting words in his mouth far from it. So yeah, his resilience in, the like the alligator thick skin that he has is bloody phenomenal. For him to have the foresight and there's the contacts to be able to get something like the Veteran Games up and running. Dave, yeah, absolutely, mate. He'll be coming into the office very, very soon. He was supposed to come in when I did the one with Sean from ARC. So there's a little bit of, moving desk chairs there as far as my podcast availability and everyone else's availability as well. So, yeah, two sort of little social announcements there about us being a founding sponsor for the Veteran Games, and there's an awesome podcast coming. But there's one other podcast which is also coming up. I think it's scheduled in for next week. And that's only going to be two people. You'll probably be sick of these people's voices by now. And it's going to be Luke and I, and we're going to talk about some stories of our own transition.
We are.
There'll probably be some tears in that one as well, mate.
Yeah, I think there might be.
And there might be mine this time. Who knows? So we're just putting the final touches on sort of. There is no script. We know that all my podcasts are very unscripted, but certainly there's a couple of key events that we want to be able to sort of cover off on as well, just to give people. I mean, more so Luke, much more contemporary. Got out 18 months ago, whereas me, I'm fucking 10 years ago. So the circumstances surrounding it are almost irrelevant. It's almost like the process that one went through. And again, in us trying to give as much. When we go through shitty experiences, or the good, the bad, and the otherwise, we want to be able to make sure that we can reflect on those experiences and pass them on to everyone else. No one else needs to have a shitty experience in a certain endeavor that other people have been able to navigate. It's a little bit like, the reason why we're property coaches. We've all been very successful in our own right in the property space. Why not pass that on to others? So you don't have to, wear the pit in your stomach. I know, Ryan, you don't have one. We don't have to wear the pit in the stomach by, getting something bloody, under your belt. So yeah, Luke, you looking forward to that, mate?
I don't often get nervous, mate. It's not a sensation that I feel too much, but it is. I don't know if nervous is the right way to describe it. I think vulnerable is going to be the right way to describe it. Like it's, as a lot of veterans go through, it was in some areas very, very bumpy. In some areas, it was amazingly supportive to understand who and what was out there to be able to do. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to be able to share that with people in the same way, RT, so that they don't have to go through those experiences. And if they do end up having to, sort of navigate some of those same paths, just to have an understanding that you're not on your own. They're lifting the lid on that for people, and sharing that is a really powerful way to be able to support people. And, I'm very, very happy. And whilst a little bit nervous to be able to sort of do that.
There's nothing to be nervous about.
No.
Yeah. Mate, thank you for that. Dan's just put a question in as well. I think it's coming through a third-party sort of program, might be YouTube or something, which is totally fine. First Mac reducing their assessment buffers from 3% to 2%, a step in the right direction. I'm actually surprised we haven't had more questions. We've only got 7 minutes to go, and I do want to respect everyone's time about interest rates and finance and all that sort of stuff. So that's been an interesting observation in itself. So Dan, thank you so much for your question, mate. Certainly it is a fucking good step in the right direction. And the buffers from 3% to 2%, or, buffers in general, is actually going to allow me to go into your secondary question where it says, have you had a lot of clients unable to settle on their house and lands due to finance, long periods of time waiting for land to title, and people's borrowing capacity being smashed with the interest rate movements? Dan, it's something I'm very, very proud of in this space. When I'm explaining the business model to everybody, when they first see it, when they do have the opportunity of doing a coaching session with us, I'm talking about there are a lot of young families. So the reason why you're asking that question is because it's a trend in the market. All right. So I want everyone to now see and hear it from a third party, third person about there's a trend in the market whereby so many people that put an EOI down 6, 9, 12 months ago are unable to now go through with that house, be it an investment or their own home, because the interest rates have gone up too far and that they just don't have the borrowing power anymore. Have we been fully immune to that, Dan? No, of course not. But, the almost 100 EOIs that we had come in over the last financial year, less than 10% of them have fallen over. And in fact, 3 of them that I can see on my other screen here were due to relationship breakdown, not interest rate movement. So, don't get me wrong. Has Deb had her work cut out for her by getting these deals over the line? And has there been some close calls? Fucking oath there have. Have there people that had to sell their cars and fucking close a credit card and, you know, stop spending money on shit they don't need? Absolutely. So people have had their tighten their belts. But it comes, so the reason why we've got such a great conversion rate, fucking now 90% conversion rate is, you know, anyone would be really, really proud of that. Of course, we are as well. Doing the planning, putting buffers in place before we even start, getting Deb, you know, financial planner, mortgage broker, accountant in as soon as we possibly can. So everyone from a coaching and professional services perspective is aware of the plan. I know it has a huge contributing factor to people either having the confidence to go through it when it's a bit tight, or go, oh yeah, we don't actually need that second car. Let's reduce our credit card, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's something I'm really, really proud of, mate. It's I'm happy that you put that up there, and I want everyone to understand that it's a precarious time for a lot of people that did put an EOI down, you know, 12 months ago. Everyone that put an EOI down 12 months ago is 50, 60, 70 grand ahead, because prices have gone up so much during that period, you know, at the minimum. But at the end of the day, if you can't bloody do it, so Dan said, something I'm going through personally myself, have a partner's income to help service to get over the line. Yeah, fantastic, mate. I'm really, really happy that you're not, you know, you're not part of the 10%. You know, I can tell you right now, the industry standard is more like 55%, 55, 60%. So, you know, there's a lot of churn, there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of thought that's gone into raising, you know, contracts and bloody choosing things and whatever else. And it's very, very disappointing that things can't do that. And just before I finish up, the one trend, Dan, that we are now seeing, which is now helping in this circumstance, is access to registered land, or land that registers in a couple of months. So when the broker's getting the loan approved and getting it locked down as of now, bang, if you've now got your finance approved in July, your block registers in August, fuck, it's going to fly through like there's no issues there. So having that shorter time from flash to bang, EOI through to land settlement, is a real trend that's, you know, really starting to emerge its way now. You know, and Ryan, from your town planning background, you would have seen that trend wax and wane over the years as those priority development areas, you know, come on and off the government's radar per se.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's, I think, just to go back to the original kind of comment you made about the importance that we put on education and planning up front. Like, it's so imperative to have that plan and understand the person's circumstances so that we have buffer should, you know, there be a delay. We know that there's a conservative, like we call it, safe and controlled within Axon. We're not going to max people out. We're not going to push them to a point where, you know, they may not be able to see it through with interest rate rises. And that also goes a lot to what Deb does as well. She's a phenomenal mortgage broker.
Love it. Luke, I know you love being in charge of this element of one's experience with us as the strategist and coach of your clients.
It's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest drums that I beat right up front. Like, we've got the plan in place, and we put all of our risk mitigators, like understanding the maximum borrowing capacity and coming back dramatically from that, you know, having cash buffers in place. One of the biggest drums that I beat as we're going through is having positive control over your money. So it becomes even more imperative right now. It becomes so fucking important that we understand what dollars are coming in the door and what dollars are going out the door. Because once we understand what that picture looks like, we can really start to close in on those unimportant things in our life, or not unimportant, less important than having a property portfolio. So like you said, RT, is it that second car? Is it that? And look, some people need a second car, and fuck, we're not going to be the ones to tell you not to have a second car in your life. But once you've got positive control over that, of your own budget and your own financial picture, it allows you to be able to, again, in the same way, react to things to have buffers in place, reduce spending in certain areas that aren't necessary when you're going through the process of sort of, you know, bringing this property to life. And then after that, guess what? Go and buy a bottle of champagne and fucking celebrate. Once you've got that property in your life and you're in a position whereby that asset's, you know, taking care of itself or as close to as possible, then fucking celebrate. In fact, we'll celebrate with you. Invite us. We'll come around and have a champagne with you to celebrate.
Oh, love it. Awesome. Look at that. Right on. You know, we've got about 60 seconds to go. So please hit us up. I'd love to know your feedback, team, to those that are still listening. How have you found tonight's session? I feel like we've covered off on 8 or 9 sort of really, really impactful topics. So I'm really keen to know that we're hitting the mark there. Luke, what are you looking forward to, mate, over the next couple of weeks?
Oh, man, I've got a couple of banging clients, first and foremost, that are coming through really strong, put themselves in a great position financially to be able to execute. I'm looking forward to Tasman Sabre being over. So I know that half of the fucking entire military is out. I'm looking forward to the opportunity of getting in touch with more clients after they've sat down and pontificated over their life and what they're going to do next.
Yeah, and I still remember it very, very well that when you spend time away and you're out there and you're on picket and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you just fucking Ryan, you don't know what we're talking about here. I apologise, but that's yeah, it is a really good time to come back from some time away to pull your finger out and get moving with things. Ryan, have you got something special coming up the next couple of weeks?
Mate, just obviously immersion. Like I love meeting people. I'm going to be jumping on as many calls as I can, sticking my head in front of the camera and getting some content out when Dan's back. I want to highlight for this for this live tonight. KC from marketing let us know that we clocked in 20 minutes before the first F-bomb, and I think that's now a record.
We're getting better.
I got to stamp that here, and it was obviously from RT, but then the ball was rolling after that. So.
What do you mean, obviously from RT? Mate, I need to work on your impression of me. All right, that's it. Benny Hinton, OMS Security, picketing at the O's Mess. Thanks so much, everyone. Podcasts and veteran games and all that stuff coming your way. Really appreciate you guys listening in. That's it. Shut it down, KC. See you, team.
See you all soon.